It was supposed to save us. Not in the dramatic, movie-ending kind of way, but in that quiet, desperate way couples sometimes don't talk about. The kind where you look across the dinner table, see the person you once couldn't keep your hands off, and wonder where the hell it all went. That's what I was trying to fix. Her name is Emily, my wife of 8 years. Beautiful in that soft, natural way. Dark waves of hair that always smelled like coconut and lavender. A small freckle under her lip I used to kiss like it was sacred. And for a while, we were that couple. The ones who laughed at the same inside jokes, who had sex in public bathrooms just for the thrill, who texted thinking about you naked in the middle of meetings. But lately, it had felt like I was living with a memory of her. She smiled, sure. She played the part. But there was distance behind her eyes, like she was performing a version of herself, just convincing enough to keep questions at bay. And maybe I would have ignored it longer if I hadn't caught her standing in the hallway one night, lit by the pale blue of her phone screen, whispering, "I miss you too," to someone who definitely wasn't me. She told me I was being paranoid, that it was Mia, her best friend since college, going through a breakup, that she was just helping her cope. So I planned the trip. A weekend on the coast, ocean view suite, a couple's massage package, and reservations for a private dinner under a canopy of lanterns. Everything Emily used to love. It wasn't just a vacation, it was a peace offering. A reset. One last shot before I'd have to admit what I was afraid to say out loud. That my wife might not love me anymore. I booked everything with a tight chest and a hopeful heart. Even went to the trouble of hand-picking a wine list I knew she loved. Called ahead to request lilies in the room because she said roses were so predictable. I wanted to remind her of us. Of the man who used to make her laugh until she snorted and the woman who used to send me photos under her skirt during work meetings. And honestly, when I told her we were going, she smiled. Not big, not the full-bodied, knee-weakening grin I used to get, but a real smile, the kind that reached her eyes for just a second. Maybe I was getting through. Maybe this would be the thing that saved us. The week leading up to the trip was weird. Emily wasn't distant exactly, but she was extra careful, tucking her phone away every time I came near, taking long showers with the water so loud I couldn't hear if she was talking to someone. Still, I kept convincing myself, just get through this week. Get to the coast. Things will feel right again. The night before we left, I packed for both of us. She'd forgotten, of course, or pretended to. I laid out her favorite dress, the pale blue one with the open back that made her skin glow in the sunset, and her matching sandals. Even packed the lingerie I hadn't seen in months, still neatly folded at the back of her drawer. I don't know what I was thinking. Hope can make you do foolish things. Then came the morning. I woke early, anxious. Showered, made coffee, and knocked gently on the bathroom door. We gotta hit the road soon if we want to make the spa appointment. No answer. 10 minutes passed. Then the door opened a crack, and she stepped out wrapped in a towel, pale and sluggish like she'd been up all night. "I don't feel well," she said, her voice small, weak. "Sick? What kind of sick?" I asked, stepping closer. She pulled the towel tighter around herself and gave me a sigh like it was all just too much. "I think it's the flu," she mumbled. "Fever. Body aches. I can't sit in a car for 4 hours like this." I remember staring at her then, not with concern but confusion, because something wasn't right. Her skin wasn't flushed. Her voice was carefully soft, too carefully. Like an actor trying to sound like she belonged in bed with a thermometer and chicken soup. "We can cancel the spa," I offered. "Just relax when we get there. I'll do the driving." But she shook her head, collapsing a little onto the edge of the bed like a sickly Victorian widow. "No, I'd just ruin it. You should go. I'm not going without you." Then came the twist, the one that still echoes in my brain like a strange, sour note in a love song. "Why don't you take Mia?" she said, brushing her hair back like she was suggesting the weather was nice. "She could use a weekend away too. Don't waste the trip." I blinked. "Mia? Why would I?" "You two get along," she said quickly, too quickly. "She needs the break. And you already paid for everything." I opened my mouth to protest, but she was already grabbing her phone. "Let's call her. She won't say yes unless we both ask." She put the call on speaker, and Mia answered. The moment Mia's name lit up on the screen, something in my stomach twisted. It wasn't nerves about her. Mia was warm, easy to be around, the kind of woman who filled a room without trying. But hearing her voice echo through our bedroom, while Emily lay dramatically posed on the sheets felt wrong. Too orchestrated. Hello. Mia answered, confusion in her tone. I could practically picture her frowning at the unexpected call. Emily immediately put on her breathy, helpless act. Mia, hey, she croaked, clutching her stomach like she had just survived a Victorian plague. I'm really sick. Oh my God, am you okay? Do you need anything? Mia's voice softened. That was who she was, kind to a fault. No. Emily sighed dramatically. But listen, we have this whole weekend planned. The coast, the hotel, everything. I can't go, and I don't want him to waste it. There was a beat of silence. A long one. Then a nervous laugh. Wait, are you saying he should still go? Alone? No. Emily forced the word out quickly. Too quickly. I was thinking you could go with him. My head snapped toward her. She didn't even meet my eyes. On the phone, Mia made a choking sound. Me? With? What? Why would I? It's perfect, Emily insisted, raising her voice enough that it sounded like she expected applause. You need a break. He needs company. And you two get along so well. Just think of it as a friendly getaway. I stepped forward, lowering my voice. Emily, stop. This is insane. She doesn't. But Emily talked right over me, putting on a wounded pout. I hate that I'm ruining the weekend, she said, sniffling so theatrically I almost rolled my eyes. Please, both of you, don't argue with me about this. Mia tried again, sounding uneasy. I don't think. No, please. Emily cut in. Just go. It'll make me feel better knowing the trip wasn't wasted. She was lying. There was no softness behind her voice, just insistence. Pressure. A push to get me out the door as fast as she could. I suddenly had the icy, unmistakable feeling that the trip wasn't the thing being saved. I was being removed. Before I could respond, Emily put her hand over the mic and whispered sharply, please just agree. Don't make this harder. When she uncovered the phone again, her tone had flipped back to delicate vulnerability. Mia? Sweetie? You'll go with him, right? Another heavy pause. I heard Mia exhale, long and conflicted. If you really want me to, I guess. I mean, only so he doesn't waste the reservations. Emily brightened instantly, a little too instantly. Perfect, she chirped, sounding magically cured. Mia still sounded like she was bracing for impact. I'm okay, but just for the weekend. And only because you asked. Great, Emily said, then added in a syrupy tone, you two will have fun. Something sharp flickered through her eyes, something she tried to hide but didn't quite bury. Satisfaction? Relief? Something darker? I opened my mouth to shut the whole thing down, but Mia spoke again before I could. Listen, Emily, before I go pack, can I ask, are you sure you're okay with this? Oh, totally, Emily said, waving her hand like this was all perfectly normal and not some bizarre, twisted arrangement. I trust you both. I just need to rest. Lie. We all felt it. But when Emily hung up, she acted like everything was settled. Like she had just solved a minor scheduling conflict instead of rearranging reality. I stood there in the quiet room, staring at her. Why did you do that? She leaned back onto the pillows, letting her towel slip just enough to show the curve of her shoulder. Once upon a time, that tiny flash of skin would have sent heat rushing through me. Now it just felt like a cheap distraction. Oh, come on, she murmured. She's your friend too. She's your friend, I corrected. Emily shrugged, lazily. So what? No big deal. You're being dramatic. You're the one who just tried to loan me out like a rental car. A flicker of irritation cracked through her mask. I'm sick. I'm trying to be thoughtful. Don't make this about something else. But it was about something else. Everything in her voice, her posture, her sudden insistence, it all screamed hidden motive. I took a slow breath. You could have just said you didn't want to go. I do want to go, she snapped, then caught herself. Softened again. But I'm sick, baby. Please don't fight with me. Something in me cooled. Not anger. Something colder. Heavier. Fine. I'll go. But this is strange, Em. Really strange. She smiled weakly and reached for me, but her fingers just grazed my wrist. Half-hearted, empty. I didn't take her hand. Instead, I packed the car. Mia arrived 20 minutes later, hair in a messy ponytail and eyes filled with uncertainty. She sounded weird, she admitted quietly as she slid into the passenger seat. Yeah, I said. I know. We pulled away from the house before Emily could wave goodbye from the window. Not that she did. We didn't even make it 2 blocks before the silence got uncomfortable. Mia was staring out the window, arms crossed, mouth tight. I could feel the tension radiating off her like static electricity. I wanted to say something. Anything. But the words stuck somewhere between my chest and my throat. "I'm sorry," she finally said. Her voice was soft, barely above the hum of the car. "For what?" I asked, glancing over. "For all of it. Emily ambushing you like that. Me getting dragged into this. It's weird. Really weird." I exhaled. "Yeah, it is." "I didn't want to say no on the phone," she continued. Emily sounded so determined, like she'd already decided we were going. And if I said no, it would have turned into a whole thing. I nodded. Same. She had it all planned before I even woke up. Mia fell quiet again, chewing on her bottom lip. The same habit Emily used to have when she was nervous. They'd been best friends for over a decade, and sometimes the resemblance between them, the little quirks, the gestures, was uncanny. Except Emily hadn't looked nervous. Emily had looked eager. Mia turned in her seat and said, "She told me something else last week. I wasn't going to bring it up, but now I feel like I should." That got my attention. I flicked my eyes toward her, then back to the road. "What is it?" She said, "You've been sensitive lately." Her words, not mine. That you were going to be upset if the weekend got canceled. My fingers tightened around the steering wheel. Sensitive. Great. Mia gave a quick shake of her head. I knew she was lying when she said it. That's why I feel like such an idiot for agreeing to this. "You're not an idiot," I said immediately, surprising even myself with how quickly I said it. She cornered both of us. A few more minutes passed in silence before Mia asked, "Do you think she's really sick?" "No," I said. Too fast. Too certain. "I think she needed me out of the house." Mia's eyes lingered on me. That's what I was afraid of. I didn't want to say what we were both thinking out loud, but it filled the space between us like fog. Mia shifted, pulling her legs up slightly onto the seat. Her knee brushed my arm. "She's been acting weird for months," she said softly. "Canceling plans. Always busy. Hiding her phone." I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but she trailed off. "You noticed too?" I asked. Mia hesitated. "Yeah." I didn't want to believe it. I still don't. There was something raw in her voice, hurt that didn't belong to me, but mirrored mine all the same. "Has she talked about anyone?" I asked. "Another guy?" "No names." But Mia sighed. 2 weeks ago, she told me she felt like she was finally being seen, that she hadn't felt desired in a long time. "I thought she was talking about you." "Guess not," I said bitterly. The highway stretched ahead of us like a dull gray ribbon, endless and quiet. Mia glanced over at me, her eyes soft. "I'm sorry. I didn't want to tell you that, but I think you already knew." I gave a shallow nod. I just didn't want to believe it. Neither of us said anything after that for a while. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was just tired, worn out from pretending. It was strange. I'd always liked Mia. She was one of the few people Emily let all the way in, and over the years, she and I had developed a rhythm of our own. Inside jokes, long talks while Emily was running late, the occasional dinner when Emily canceled last minute. Nothing inappropriate, just close. Now that closeness felt like something else entirely. Not romantic. Not yet. But charged. There was a moment when she leaned over to grab a bottle of water from the back seat, and her hair brushed my arm. Just that. The barest contact. But it made me realize how long it had been since anyone had touched me with softness. When she sat back, she noticed the look on my face. "You okay?" "Yeah," I lied. "Just tired." "I get that." She smiled faintly. "This whole thing is exhausting." We pulled into a gas station around lunchtime. I filled up while Mia grabbed snacks inside. When she came back out, she handed me a drink and a bag of peanut butter pretzels. "You remembered," I said, surprised. Mia shrugged with a small grin. "You eat like a child when you're stressed. You said that once." We sat in the car under the gas station awning, munching in quiet. A strange calm settled between us. "Familiar. Did you ever think Emily would?" I started. "No," Mia cut in. "Not in a million years." "Same." She looked at me for a long moment, then said, "Do you think this weekend was about pushing you away?" I nodded slowly. "Yeah, and maybe testing us." Mia went quiet, her eyes clouded. She always liked control, but this feels different. Like she's daring us. "Daring us to what?" "I don't know," she said. "But it scares me." We didn't talk much the rest of the way. Just drove. The road stretched ahead, and the sun dipped lower behind us, casting long shadows into the car. By the time the coast appeared in the distance, a sliver of blue between cliffs and sky, Mia turned to me again. She didn't want you home this weekend. I looked at her. No, she didn't. And if she lied about that, what else is she lying about? Neither of us answered, but the question lingered. Loud. Inevitable. We pulled into the hotel parking lot just as the sun dipped below the waterline, burning the horizon in shades of orange and red. A beautiful ending to a strange day. Mia reached for the door handle, then paused. She's hiding something, she said, and I think you're about to find out what. The hotel looked like something out of a travel magazine. White stone walls glowing warm under string lights, balconies draped in bougainvillea, the ocean stretching out behind everything like a promise. It should have felt romantic, beautiful, hopeful. Instead, it felt like walking into someone else's weekend. Mia stepped out of the car and hugged her arms around herself against the sea breeze. This place is wow, she whispered. Her voice held awe, but also something heavier. Something sad. Yeah, I said quietly. I thought Emily would love it. That name hung between us like a bruise. Inside, the lobby smelled like citrus and warm wood polish. A pianist played something soft near the fireplace. Couples milled around holding cocktails, brushing fingers, leaning into each other in that effortless way people do when they have nothing to hide. I caught Mia glancing at them too, her jaw set tight. Feels like we're crashing a honeymoon, she muttered. We approached the check-in desk. The receptionist greeted us with a bright, trained smile. Welcome. Romantic weekend for two? I opened my mouth to answer, but the words got stuck. Mia's cheeks flushed a soft pink. No, just friends, she said quickly. The receptionist blinked, hesitated, then recovered. Of course. 2 rooms? Mia jumped in again. Yes. Separate rooms. Definitely. I caught the tension in her voice. Too quick, too defensive. She didn't want Emily thinking anything happened here today. And maybe she didn't want herself thinking it either. The receptionist frowned slightly at the screen. Your reservation is for 1 Ocean View Suite, king bed. Mia froze. I looked down, exhaling through my nose. She picked that, I said quietly. I didn't choose the bed. Mia offered a tight, almost apologetic smile. Can we split it into 2 rooms? Let me see what I can do. The woman clicked on her keyboard for a few moments. We're nearly at capacity, but I can give you a second room on the same floor. Perfect, Mia said quickly. Her relief was palpable, but underneath it, I caught a flicker of disappointment she tried to hide. Or maybe I imagined it. I didn't have the right to interpret anything she felt. Not when everything about this weekend was twisted by Emily's bizarre orchestration. Our rooms ended up side by side, numbers 312 and 314. Close enough to share a wall. Close enough to feel each other's presence even when separated. After dropping our bags, we met again in the hallway. Hungry? I asked. Mia nodded. Starving. And sick of thinking. We headed to the hotel's garden restaurant. Lanterns hung from the trees like floating planets. Tables were scattered among flowers and soft jazz. The kind of setting that would have made Emily glow. The hostess sat us at a small table under a canopy of vines. Our knees brushed under the table as we adjusted our chairs. A small, accidental touch, but I felt it like a spark. So, Mia said as the waiter left us with menus. Do you want to talk about it? About what? I said flatly. She shot me a look. Don't do that. We're both thinking the same thing. I rubbed my face with both hands. Yeah, I guess we are. Mia took a breath, then pulled her phone from her purse. I wasn't sure if I should show you this, but after today, her voice trembled. I think you need to see it. She opened her messages, scrolled, then turned the phone toward me. The top of the screen showed a row of unanswered texts from Mia to Emily. Are you okay? You didn't respond earlier. Is everything all right? All unanswered for 9 hours. But then, a new text came in. A single bubble. Can't wait to see you later. Not sent to Mia. Clearly meant for someone else. My stomach twisted. It came in while we were driving, Mia whispered. I didn't want to assume, but the heart? The wording? That wasn't an accident. She swallowed hard, her voice cracking. She sent that to someone she didn't want you near. Someone she planned to spend the weekend with while we were gone. Heat rose behind my eyes. Not tears, but anger. Cold, tight, abandoned anger. Emily isn't sick, I said. The words were gravel in my mouth. She got me out of the house. Mia nodded, her eyes glassy. I'm sorry. I really am. I leaned back, staring up at the lanterns, the stars, the gentle shadows of leaves overhead. All these warm, beautiful things suddenly felt like props in a cruel play. What about you? I asked quietly. How does this affect you? Mia hesitated before answering. She's my best friend. She swallowed hard. Or I thought she was. But I've been feeling off. Like she's been hiding something from me too. Like what? She lowered her gaze. Conversations she shuts down when I walk in. Plans she cancels last minute. And she's been, Mia winced. Distant. Like I'm only useful when she wants something. Hearing her say, it made something tighten in my chest. Not just pity, but recognition. We were both casualties of Emily's secrets. The waiter returned with drinks. I ordered wine. Mia asked for the same. When the glasses arrived, she raised hers slightly. To survival, I guess, she said with a hollow laugh. I clinked mine against hers. To clarity. We took slow sips. The warmth settled into my chest, loosening something inside me. For the first time all day, Mia let out a real breath. You know, she said softly. I always thought you two were solid. We were, I said. Or maybe I just believed the version she showed me. Mia rested her chin on her hand. She never deserved someone who tried as hard as you. Her words hit deeper than they should have. Her eyes lingered too. Soft. Painful. Understanding. A long silence stretched between us as the lantern swayed, casting shifting shadows across her face. She looked beautiful in the soft light. Vulnerable, thoughtful, a little scared. And for the first time since Emily started pulling away, I didn't feel entirely alone. When dinner ended, neither of us moved right away. The night air was cool, brushing against us like something intimate. Mia finally stood, her voice gentle. We should get some rest. Yeah, I said. Tomorrow will probably bring more. We walked down the camel-lit path back to the hotel, closer than before, though we said nothing. At our doors, she paused. If you need someone to talk to, she said softly, I'm right next door. I nodded. Same. She held my gaze for a moment longer than necessary. Then she disappeared into her room. But even with a wall between us, I could still feel her presence like a pulse in the quiet night. Steady, warm, and growing stronger. It was sometime past midnight when I heard the knock. Soft. Hesitant. 3 taps. I sat up in bed, disoriented. The ocean outside was a quiet hush beyond the balcony doors, moonlight casting silver across the sheets. The knock came again, slightly louder this time. And then her voice, just above a whisper. Hey, it's me. Mia. I threw on a t-shirt and opened the door. She was standing there in pajama shorts and a loose sweatshirt, barefoot, hair messy like she'd been tossing in bed for hours. Her phone was clutched in both hands, her knuckles white. And her eyes, red-rimmed, wide, glassy with a kind of panic that cut straight through me. I'm sorry, she said immediately. I didn't know where else to go. I stepped aside without a word, and she slipped inside. What happened? I asked, heart already thudding. Mia walked toward the bed and sat down slowly, like her legs might give out. She held up her phone and whispered. She sent another text. She tapped the screen and turned it toward me. It was short. Just one line. Same hotel next weekend? Same room. I can still taste you. My stomach dropped. Mia's voice was barely audible. That message came in 5 minutes ago. Meant for someone else. She sent it to me again by mistake. The words blurred in my vision. Rage mixing with humiliation in a thick knot. Same hotel. She had used this place before. The same ocean view suite I had booked for her. The same bed I had laid in hours ago, thinking it might still be ours. She didn't want you home this weekend, Mia whispered, her voice shaking. She wanted time with him. I couldn't speak. Couldn't think. My mind flashed with images I didn't want. Emily in this very room, moaning someone else's name, pressing her body into him where I was supposed to be, using my love as a cover for her lies. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed, breathing like I'd just been punched. Jesus Christ. Mia placed the phone face down on the nightstand like it physically hurt her to look at it. I didn't know she was capable of this. I nodded, but the truth was, I had known. Somewhere deep down, I had known for weeks. Maybe longer. But now the evidence was raw and undeniable, right there in her digital handwriting. Mia was still sitting beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat of her thigh through the blanket. She had her hands in her lap, twisting her fingers, eyes fixed on the floor. I feel sick, she said, like I've been helping her cheat. All this time, defending her, covering for her. And she's been doing this. I turned to her. You didn't know? You're not responsible for her lies. But I brought her into my life. I introduced her to you. I told you how loyal she was. Her voice broke. I believed it. She looked up at me, and something cracked between us. A shared grief. A betrayal that didn't just cut through romance, but through family. Mia wasn't just a friend of ours. She was part of the structure, the history, the scaffolding that held the three of us together. And now she was the one sitting here, holding me, while Emily was off with someone else. A silence fell between us again, this one different. Heavier. Intimate. I didn't know where else to go, she said again, softer this time. I didn't ask why she didn't call another friend, or stay in her room, or cry it out alone. I didn't need to. I felt it in the way her shoulder leaned subtly toward mine, the way her breath hitched when our knees touched again. She was unraveling, and so was I. I reached out slowly and placed my hand over hers. Her fingers stiffened, then relaxed, curling slightly under my touch. Thank you, she whispered, for not sending me away. I didn't speak. I just nodded and held on tighter. Then she turned her hand over, lacing our fingers. There was something terrifying and electric in that moment. Something that felt like a boundary quietly snapping under the weight of pain and proximity. You look so lonely, Mia said. Her voice was no longer shaking, just soft, barely more than a breath. I can fix that. I looked at her, really looked. Mia, sitting in my hotel room, wearing the sadness of two people on her face. Her eyes dark with exhaustion and heartbreak. But behind that, something else. Want. Not lust, not yet. Something quieter. More human. Connection. Mia, I started. But the words never formed. Because she leaned in. Her forehead touched mine, and for a second we didn't kiss. We just breathed each other in. Our hands still entwined, our legs lightly touching. The space between us charged with everything we hadn't said all weekend. All year. I know this is wrong, she whispered. But it doesn't feel wrong. Her lips brushed mine. I froze. Not because I didn't want it, but because it felt so much. Too much. I was angry. I was broken. But I was also starving. For touch, for honesty, for something real. And Mia, she felt real. So I kissed her back. Not deep. Not hungry. Just enough to say I'm here too. When we pulled apart, her breath caught. I shouldn't have done that. No, I said. But I'm glad you did. We sat in that suspended moment, our hands still joined, her head on my shoulder now. We didn't speak again. The clock ticked softly beside us. The ocean whispered beyond the walls. She stayed until just before dawn, curled beside me on top of the blanket like a confession. When she finally stood to leave, she looked back once. Her voice was barely a whisper. She's losing you. And she doesn't even care. The door closed behind her. And for the first time since Emily started slipping away, I didn't feel completely alone. The next morning didn't feel like aftermath. There was no panic, no racing heart. Just sunlight bleeding slowly through the gauzy hotel curtains and the faint sound of waves lapping against the cliffs below. I sat up in bed and stared at the empty space beside me, the wrinkle in the blanket where Mia had been. She hadn't stayed the night, not really. We hadn't had sex. We hadn't even kissed again. But something changed between us. Something that couldn't be undone. I got dressed and stepped out onto the balcony. The breeze smelled like salt and citrus, and for a moment, I let it wash over me. Not to cleanse, just to feel. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, I didn't feel numb. 10 minutes later, there was a soft knock at the door. Mia. She looked like she hadn't slept either, but somehow, she was radiant. Her hair was pulled back in a lazy braid. No makeup, sandals, and a loose tank top that revealed the slope of one bare shoulder. Hey, she said quietly. You up for a walk? I nodded. Yeah, I was hoping you'd ask. We didn't say much as we descended the wooden stairs and stepped onto the narrow path that led down toward the beach. The tide was low, and the sky was a pale wash of gold and blue. It was quiet except for the call of gulls and the steady hush of the sea. Mia kept her arms crossed as we walked, her expression unreadable. You didn't sleep either, I said finally. She gave a dry laugh. No, I kept replaying everything, trying to figure out when the lie started. When she stopped being the friend I thought she was. I didn't respond. There was no answer for that. Do you think I'm a terrible person? She asked, not looking at me. For what? For being here. With you. For last night. I stopped walking. She took a few more steps before turning back toward me, her eyes wide and searching. I think, I said slowly, that you're the only person who's been honest with me in a long time. Mia swallowed hard, then looked away. We walked a bit further in silence, until we reached a small cove nestled between two rocky outcrops. The beach was empty, just sand and surf and wind. She dropped onto the sand, hugging her knees. I sat beside her. I kept wondering if this was her plan, she said after a long pause. To push us together? I asked. She nodded. Maybe as punishment, or as justification for whatever she's doing. Like if she can turn me into the villain, then she gets to be the victim. Sounds like her, I muttered. I don't want to be her excuse, Mia said, more to herself than to me. You're not, I said firmly. You didn't lie. You didn't cheat. You're not her. Mia turned to look at me then, really look. And whatever was in her eyes, grief, anger, longing, I felt it echo inside me. I hate that I needed you last night, she whispered. I don't, I said. Her breath caught. Then, slowly, she reached out and placed her hand over mine. The same gesture as the night before, but now it felt like a question. I laced my fingers through hers. I don't want to be a rebound, she said softly. You're not, I said. I was rebounding when I kept pretending my marriage wasn't dying. Mia closed her eyes, a single tear slipping down her cheek. She always told me you were fragile, that you needed constant reassurance, that you were needy. I snorted. She told me you were dramatic and clingy, too emotional. We both laughed, bitter and real. She never wanted us to get too close, Mia said, wiping her eyes. Even when we became friends, she always kept a line drawn, like she was afraid I'd see too much. Maybe you did. We were quiet for a while. The breeze picked up, lifting strands of her hair across her cheek. I reached out instinctively, brushing them away. Her eyes flicked up to meet mine. And there it was again. That quiet tension. That pull. We leaned in at the same time. The kiss was slow, hesitant. No hunger, no rush. Just lips brushing lips, a soft press of mouths shaped by months of silence and aching and secrets. It wasn't just about desire, it was recognition. Of pain, of loneliness, of being seen. When we broke apart, her forehead rested against mine. I shouldn't have done that, she said, echoing last night's confession. Neither should I, but I wanted to. So did I. She opened her eyes, searching mine for some truth she hadn't dared ask for. This changes things, she said. Yeah, it does. She pulled back just enough to look at me fully. What happens now? I didn't have an answer. Not yet. All I knew was that for the first time since Emily started fading from my life, I felt something real. Something I wasn't faking. Something I didn't have to chase or beg for. Mia stood and held out her hand. Come on, let's walk. I took it, and she didn't let go. We walked the shoreline for hours, talking about everything. Our jobs, our childhoods, our earliest memories of Emily. Somewhere in there, we stopped saying her name and started saying she, as if distancing ourselves from her helped us get closer to something else. By the time we returned to the hotel, the sun was high and our shoulders were pink from the heat. Mia paused at her door. I'm gonna shower, she said. I need to get her off me. It was the most honest sentence I'd heard all day. Same, I said, and nodded toward my room. Meet you in an hour? She smiled. It wasn't bright, but it was real. Yeah, an hour. And then she leaned in and kissed me again. Not slow, not hesitant. This one was real, too. There's something strange about knowing a line has been crossed and feeling not guilt, but relief. We spent the day pretending we hadn't just kissed each other twice. We talked like normal, walked to the little open-air cafe up the hill, had lunch under a yellow umbrella while the breeze rolled in off the sea and made her hair dance across her cheek. Mia was radiant in the sunlight, even in silence. But every pause between our words held something unspoken, and every time our hands brushed, I didn't pull away. By the time dusk fell, the air had thickened into that golden warmth that only coastal towns seemed to hold. Mia knocked on my door wearing a sundress I hadn't seen before. White, simple, loose in the breeze. Her hair was still wet from the shower, strands clinging to her neck in a way that made my chest tighten. Dinner? She asked. Dinner, I said. We ate on the terrace, overlooking the cliffs. We didn't talk about Emily. We didn't talk about texts or betrayals or lines we'd crossed. We talked about books, music, the kind of conversations that stretch comfortably into evening when two people already know each other's hearts. And beneath it all, that same slow, growing tension. I caught her looking at me over her glass of wine, her gaze lingering, a small half-smile playing on her lips. Not the guarded smile of a friend trying to be polite. This was something deeper. Curiosity. Want. The ache that lives in the space between two people who finally let themselves see each other. When we got back to our rooms, we stood outside them for a moment. Both doors closed. Both possibilities hanging in the air. Mia looked at me. Do you want me to go back to my room tonight? It wasn't coy. It wasn't a game. Just a question. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I reached past her and opened my door. She stepped inside without hesitation. It was dark in the room except for the moonlight pouring through the curtains. I didn't turn on a lamp. I didn't need to see more. I already knew how she looked, how she felt beside me, how real it all was. She turned to face me, breath shallow. You sure? No, I admitted. But I've never felt more certain. She stepped forward and kissed me, and this time, we didn't stop. There was no pretense, no playing pretend. Our mouths moved together slowly, then urgently. Her hands gripped the hem of my shirt, fingers trembling just slightly as she pulled it over my head. When her fingers traced the skin over my ribs, I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding for months. It had been so long since someone touched me like this, not just with lust, but with care, with need. I returned the favor, sliding the straps of her dress down her shoulders, letting it fall in a quiet whisper to the floor. She stood there in her underwear, her breath shaky, her eyes locked to mine. She didn't look like a woman making a mistake. She looked like a woman who had been waiting to feel wanted again. I kissed her shoulder, her collarbone, the spot behind her ear that made her gasp softly. Her body responded to mine with ease, with hunger she didn't try to hide. We moved to the bed, and everything else melted away. It wasn't fast. It wasn't rushed. It was slow, intentional. Every inch, every breath, every kiss soaked in months of tension, sadness, and silent craving. We didn't fumble. We fit. When I was inside her, it wasn't just sex, it was release. A dam bursting open. Her fingers clutched my back, her legs around my hips, her lips at my ear whispering my name like it was something holy. I'd forgotten what it felt like to be chosen. Desired. Not tolerated or pitted, but wanted. We didn't stop after the first time. We lay tangled in the sheets, slick with sweat and laughter, breathless from the surge of it all. Then she climbed back on top of me and kissed me again, slow, teasing, confident. I'm not done, she whispered. Neither was I. The second time was deeper, slower. We moved together like we'd done this 1,000 times, like we weren't two people unraveling after betrayal, but something older. Like we'd been waiting to find each other through all of this pain. After, she lay against my chest, drawing lazy shapes across my skin. This isn't just sex, she said, more to herself than to me. I know. I've been falling for you. I looked down at her. Since when? She hesitated. A while. I didn't let myself think about it because it was her. And you were hers. But lately, it's like I've been watching you disappear, and she didn't even notice. I noticed, I whispered. I felt it every day. She kissed my chest. You don't feel invisible now. No, I said. I feel seen. Mia looked up at me. Eyes soft. Do you regret it? No, I said. I think this is the first thing in months I don't regret. She smiled, and I kissed her again. Slow. Deep. We made love a third time, this time slower than before. Her fingers in my hair, her lips at my neck, her body moving in rhythm with mine. When we finished, we collapsed into each other like we had nothing left to prove. And still, we didn't sleep. We lay there, wrapped in quiet, the ocean in the distance like a lullaby. She ran her fingers through my hair and whispered, I don't want to go back to pretending. You won't have to, I said. And I meant it. Emily had pushed us away, so far out of her life that we only found comfort in each other. But we weren't broken. We were just finally free. I woke up to sunlight and silence. Mia's leg was still tangled with mine under the sheets, her bare shoulder warm against my chest, her breath steady and soft. For a long moment, I didn't move. I just lay there, watching the rise and fall of her back, my hand resting gently on her hip. Everything about the room felt still, like time itself was holding its breath for us. For once, I didn't feel panic. No guilt clawing at my chest. No shame burning at the edges of my thoughts. Just calm. Mia stirred a little, pressing her face against my neck. She whispered, still half asleep. We didn't dream this, right? No, I said, smiling. It happened. She stretched, her body brushing against mine in ways that reminded me of last night. Of the way she kissed me, touched me, moved with me like she'd been holding herself back for years. Her eyes blinked open, and for a split second, I saw hesitation. Hey, I said softly. You okay? She nodded slowly. Yeah, it feels too easy. Too good. That scares me. I leaned down and kissed her forehead. It's not too good. It's just real. We lay like that for a while, not speaking, just breathing each other in. Then, eventually, she sat up, pulling the sheet with her. Do you feel different? I thought about it. Yeah, I feel like myself again. Mia turned to me, her expression unreadable. I've wanted to tell you something for a long time. Before last night. Before any of this. Tell me now, I said. She looked down at her hands in her lap. Emily used to talk about you like you were a burden. Like you needed too much. She said you were exhausting to love. I stared at her. She said that. Mia nodded. More than once. But I never saw it. I saw a man who gave everything. Who bent backward, trying to keep a marriage alive when she had already left it emotionally. I sat up too, the sheets slipping down my chest. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I thought it wasn't my place. And maybe part of me believed she was just venting. But after the last few months, after the lies and the excuses, I realized she was rewriting the story so she could feel better about leaving you emotionally behind. That landed harder than I expected. Not because I didn't know it deep down, but because hearing someone else say it made it undeniable. She never fought for us, I said quietly. No, Mia agreed. But you did. There was a long pause. Then she added, I hated watching her pull away from you. You were always kind to her. Patient. God, so patient. She made me feel like I was too much, I said. She made everyone feel like they were too much, Mia said bitterly. That's how she kept control. We stared at each other in the soft light filtering through the curtains. She didn't deserve you, Mia said. And she didn't deserve you either. That broke something in both of us. Mia slid closer, pressing her body against mine. And for a moment, I thought we might fall back into the heat of last night. But instead, she rested her forehead against mine and whispered, What do we do now? We talk about it, I said. We don't run from it. She nodded. Good. Because I don't want to run anymore. We got dressed slowly, quietly. There was no rush, no awkwardness. Just calm intimacy. The kind that didn't need constant explanation. Over breakfast, we avoided anything heavy. We ate pancakes and laughed about the awful coffee. She reached across the table once to wipe syrup from my chin, and it felt more intimate than anything we'd done in bed. She was watching me differently now. Not like a friend. Not like a woman hiding something. But like someone seeing me, finally, as I was. After breakfast, we took a walk along the cliffs, the ocean roaring below. The wind whipped through her hair, and she didn't bother fixing it. I've spent so long trying to be the version of myself Emily needed me to be, she said. I didn't realize how far I'd gone from who I actually was. I know that feeling, I said. You don't see it while it's happening. You just wake up one day and realize you've been edited out of your own life. She glanced at me. Last night wasn't just about sex. I know. I wasn't trying to make a statement. Or hurt her. I know. She smiled softly. I think I fell for you somewhere in the middle of all the lies. I stopped walking. She did too. Why? I asked. When did it start? She shrugged, but her eyes were serious. Maybe it was the way you always tried to see the best in her, even when she gave you every reason not to. Or maybe it was the way you listened when I talked, even when I was venting about stupid things. I reached for her hand. She let me take it. I don't know what this means, she said. But I don't want to pretend it didn't happen. Neither do I. We stood at the edge of the cliffs, the wind howling around us. Two people no longer hiding. No longer waiting for permission to feel what had been there for so long. She squeezed my hand. We still have one more night here. I smiled. What do you want to do with it? She stepped closer, voice barely above the wind. I want to stop pretending I'm just your wife's best friend. And I want to stop pretending I still have a wife. That hit both of us hard. But it was the truth. Mia kissed me then. Gentle, not urgent. Like something claimed. Something understood. We walked back slowly, hand in hand. And not once did I feel like we were doing something wrong. The morning we left the coast, the air felt heavier than before. Thicker somehow, like the calm that had settled over us was already beginning to stretch and fray. I stood in front of the mirror in the hotel bathroom, toothbrush hanging from my mouth, staring at the man looking back at me. Same face, same eyes, but something inside had shifted. Mia was packing in the next room, her soft humming drifting through the cracked door. We hadn't talked much since waking, not because we were avoiding anything, but because we didn't need to fill the silence anymore. She had spent the night in my bed again, but this time we hadn't made love. We'd simply held each other, naked, exhausted, and real. By the time we checked out, neither of us smiled at the receptionist. It wasn't her fault, but it felt wrong to offer warmth in return for a weekend that had cracked the truth open like an egg on concrete. We drove separately, a mutual choice. We didn't talk about it, we just understood. The ride home would be different. Quiet, reflective, and we both needed space to think through what came next. My phone buzzed halfway into the drive. A text from Emily. Her name lit up my screen like a warning siren. You on your way home? No question about the weekend. No apology for canceling. Just a vague, impersonal check-in, like I'd been on a business trip. I didn't reply. By the time I pulled into our driveway, her car was already parked out front. I sat in my car for a full minute before getting out. My hands weren't shaking, but they were tight around the steering wheel. My jaw ached from how long I'd been clenching it. The front door opened before I reached it. Emily stood there in leggings and a loose hoodie, hair twisted up in a bun. No makeup, no smile, just wide eyes and a flush of something that wasn't quite guilt, but close. You're back early, she said. I said nothing. Then Mia's car turned the corner and pulled into the curb behind me. Emily's face changed. She looked from me to the car, to Mia stepping out slowly, her overnight bag slung over one shoulder. Mia froze when she saw Emily on the porch. Their eyes locked. Something flickered between them, recognition, betrayal, and something like regret. But Emily beat Mia to it. You brought her. Emily spat, her voice rising. Seriously? She was invited, I said evenly. Remember? Emily's expression twisted. I meant for her to take the room, not my husband. There it was. The confession hidden in the accusation. You didn't want me here this weekend, I said. You pushed me out of the house. You called her. You made this happen. You weren't supposed to. Emily stopped herself. You weren't supposed to do anything. Oh, so I was supposed to take your little bait and just sit alone while you played house with whoever the hell he is? Emily's face flushed a darker red, but she didn't deny it. Mia stepped forward, calm and steady. You texted me by accident, Emily. Twice. Emily's face drained of color. I know about the hotel, Mia continued. The same room message. You used the place he booked for you. Stay out of this, Emily snapped. You have no idea what's going on. I have more idea than you think, Mia said. You lied to both of us. Manipulated both of us. You wanted him gone so you could cheat in peace. Emily looked at me again. You believe her over me? I trusted you, I said. And you turned that into something ugly. Her voice trembled now. I was lonely. So was I said. But I didn't climb into someone else's bed. Silence. A single bird chirped in the distance like the world hadn't noticed everything collapsing. Emily stepped down from the porch, her tone changing. Look, I didn't plan it this way, okay? It just happened. Things between us have been broken for a long time. I crossed my arms. So you thought breaking them more would fix it? She moved closer. I made a mistake. No, I said. A mistake is one night. You built a second life. You lied. Over and over. Emily's voice cracked. We can fix this. Why would I want to? I asked. Her lip trembled. Because we were something once. I looked over at Mia, standing silently near her car, pain etched into her features. Then back to Emily. You killed that something the moment you texted her a message meant for your other man. Her eyes flashed with something desperate now. So what? You're with her now. Maybe I am, I said. But even if I wasn't, I'd still be done with you. That hit harder than anything else. Emily stepped back like she'd been slapped. Her voice broke. You're making a mistake. No, I said. I'm finally not. Mia stepped forward, gently brushing past Emily as she joined me at the door. Emily turned to face her. You were supposed to be my best friend. Mia didn't flinch. Then maybe you should have treated me like one. And with that, we went inside, together. Emily didn't follow. She stood frozen on the lawn, watching the door close behind us. Inside, I dropped my bag by the stairs. My hands weren't shaking anymore. The house smelled the same. The furniture hadn't moved, but everything inside it was different. Mia stood beside me, quiet. She looked around, almost like she expected Emily's ghost to materialize. "She's gone," I said. Mia looked at me. "For good." I nodded. "For good." Emily didn't leave quietly. After that first confrontation on the front lawn, I expected her to vanish, to retreat into whatever mess she'd created for herself. But instead, she spent the next 48 hours trying to rewrite history. Hers, mine, and ours. As if she could edit her betrayal into a misunderstanding if she screamed loud enough. I spent most of the first night at Mia's apartment. We didn't sleep together. We didn't even touch. We just existed in the same space. Two people holding still while the storm raged on outside. We lay side by side on her couch while the TV played something neither of us watched, and I held her hand as she finally broke down in the dark. "She was my best friend," she said through tears, "and she used me like a chess piece." "I know," I whispered. "She did the same to me." When I returned home the next morning, Emily was in the kitchen, still in the hoodie she'd worn the day before, dark circles under her eyes, and a coffee mug clutched like a lifeline. She looked up when I walked in. "I couldn't sleep," she said. "Yeah, me neither. I thought maybe we could talk." I leaned against the doorway. "About what?" "How you spent the weekend texting a man from our bed while trying to play victim." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "You're angry. I get it. But it's not that simple." "Actually, it is." She set the mug down, too hard, and it rattled on the counter. "You think Mia's innocent in all of this? You think she didn't manipulate her way into your bed?" I stared at her, stunned by the gall of it. "You sent her with me, Emily. You orchestrated this whole thing. And now that it didn't play out the way you wanted, she's suddenly the villain? She always had a thing for you. Don't pretend you didn't notice." I stepped closer. "You wanted to be caught. Maybe not by accident, but eventually. You didn't want to be here anymore. And instead of saying it, you torched everything and hoped someone else would take the blame." She went silent. For the first time, her face cracked, not with rage or deflection, but a flicker of something like shame. Regret. But it was too late. "You cheated on me," I said. "And then when I found comfort in the one person who actually told me the truth, you tried to make that the betrayal." "You said you loved me," she whispered. "I did," I said. "But you made it impossible to keep doing that." Tears filled her eyes. "So what? You're just walking away? After everything we've built?" I didn't shout. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even raise my voice. "Yes," I said, "because I finally understand that everything we built was held up by me. You stopped showing up a long time ago." She looked like she wanted to argue, wanted to scream or cry or throw something. But she just sagged into the kitchen stool, her shoulders folding inward like she'd deflated. "I never meant to fall out of love," she said. "It just happened." That hurt more than anything else. Not because it was cruel, but because it was true. I nodded slowly. "It happened to me too. I just didn't see it until you'd already left me in every way but physically." We sat in silence for a long time. Then she whispered, "What happens now?" "You pack your things," I said gently. "You find somewhere else to stay. And I start the process of reclaiming the pieces of myself I lost trying to hold us together." She stared at the floor. I never thought it would end like this. Neither did I. When she left a few hours later, there were no dramatics. No slamming doors. Just the quiet sound of her suitcase wheels rolling down the walkway. She didn't say goodbye. I didn't ask her to. The next few days passed in a blur of logistics, bank accounts, shared bills, untangling names from documents. The house was quieter without her, but not in a lonely way. It felt mine again. The air wasn't thick with tension. The silence didn't feel like walking on eggshells. Mia came over the third night. She stood in the living room, hesitating by the couch, unsure if she was allowed to relax. I walked over and took her hand without a word, led her to the kitchen, made her tea. The normalcy was soothing. "She's gone?" she asked. I nodded. "She's gone." Mia exhaled, her shoulders dropping like she'd been holding her breath too. "She came by my apartment," she said quietly. "When? This morning. She was angry. Called me a snake. Said I'd stolen you." I didn't even feel anger anymore. Just exhaustion. "Of course she did. She doesn't see what she did wrong," Mia whispered. "She really believes we're the villains in her story." She doesn't get to write our story, I said. Not anymore. Mia smiled, small and sad and real. I'm glad you're free. I pulled her into me, holding her close. I'm glad you're still here. The coast looked different this time. Same winding road. Same jagged cliffs. Same ocean beating against the rocks like a steady pulse that never forgot its rhythm. But everything felt new, like the air itself had shifted in my lungs. 3 weeks had passed since Emily walked out of the house, her suitcase rattling behind her like a final insult. I hadn't heard from her since. Not directly. A few emails about paperwork. One cold, clipped message asking if I wanted to reevaluate the split, an offer I ignored. Mia never pressured me to define us. She gave me space, showed up without asking for permission, and slowly, quietly, we built something from the ashes Emily left behind. Not a rebound, not a secret, just us. When I asked Mia if she'd meet me back at the coast, she didn't hesitate. I'll be there, she said, simple as breath. Now, as I stepped into the hotel lobby, the same one I had walked through feeling empty and uncertain just a few weeks ago, I felt a strange sense of closure tugging at my chest. The ghosts were still here, sure, but they didn't scare me anymore. She was already there. Mia sat at the bar near the fireplace, same seat as the first night we ate dinner and realized the walls between us were cracking. She wore jeans, a soft green sweater, and no makeup. Her hair was loose. When she saw me, she smiled, not tentative or nervous, but warm, confident, familiar, like she belonged here, like we belonged here. I walked up and sat beside her. Deja vu, she asked, sipping her drink. Except this time I'm not pretending. She smiled. And this time, we're not looking over our shoulders. There was music playing low in the background, some acoustic version of a love song I didn't recognize, and the fireplace popped quietly behind us. She reached out, laced her fingers through mine. I wasn't sure if you'd want to come back here. I needed to, I said. To prove something. To yourself? I nodded. That I'm not the man she tried to make me believe I was. Mia squeezed my hand gently. You never were. We sat there for a while, watching the fire, the ice in our glasses melting slow and quiet. There was no rush to fill the silence. The weight between us had turned from grief to something else, solidarity, respect, maybe even love, though neither of us had said it out loud. Not yet. Finally, she looked at me. So what happens now? I turned to face her. Now we start something real. She raised an eyebrow. What does that mean? It means no more pretending. No more guilt. No more walking on eggshells around someone who never cared to hear me. It means we stop asking if this is allowed, and just let it be what it is. Mia's eyes softened. And what is it? I hesitated, not because I didn't know, but because the words had weight now. I wasn't making a speech. I wasn't trying to win her over. I was speaking from a place I hadn't touched in years, my own truth. It's something that saved me, I said, and I want to see where it leads. Her smile widened, slow and genuine. Okay, she said. Then let's see. Later that night, we stood out on the balcony, the same one I'd once looked out over in quiet despair. The breeze was cool, the ocean a dark mirror under the moonlight. She came up behind me, wrapped her arms around my waist, her cheek pressed to my back. You don't look lonely anymore, she said softly. I turned. She looked up at me, and in that moment, I saw the entire story, every painful chapter, every betrayal, every second of doubt, and how it had all led to this. 2 people, 1 chance, a beginning born from the wreckage. I'm not lonely, I whispered. Not with you. She kissed me, slow, sure, steady. This wasn't a kiss stolen in a moment of chaos. It wasn't frantic or forbidden. It was a promise. We spent the night tangled in sheets again, but this time it wasn't desperate. It was calm, certain. Her body moved with mine like it belonged there. Her hands on my skin felt like home. We didn't say the words out loud, but they lived in the way we touched, the way we held each other long after the heat passed. In the morning, we ordered breakfast to the room. We ate in bed, messy and laughing, fighting over the last bite of croissant. I think I love you, she said, mid-laugh, as if it just slipped out. I looked at her, surprised, but not shocked. Yeah. She nodded. It's okay if you're not there yet. I just needed to say it. I reached for her hand. I'm there. Her eyes filled. Really? Fell somewhere between that first kiss on the beach and the second round last night. She laughed and wiped at her cheek. You're such a romantic. I'm trying, I said. It's easier when I'm with someone who sees me. Mia leaned in and kissed me again, and I realized something that made my chest ache in the best way. This wasn't the end of a painful story. It was the beginning of a better one. And this time, I wasn't writing it alone.